And now, please welcome the Group President of Expedia Business Services, Ariane Gorin, in conversation with Skift founding editor and executive editor, Dennis Schaal.
Ariane, how are you? How's it going?
I'm very well. Hi, Dennis. How are you?
Great. Thanks for being here. Where are you joining us from today?
I am joining you from London. I even had to close my shutters to not let the sun come in because it's a sunny day here in London.
Oh my God, what's happening?
I know. Where are you?
Oh, I'm in Puerto Rico. So no complaints here. And I have seen an occasional business traveler walking around a hotel or two. So I almost fell over when I saw them, but they are here. But anyway, so going back over the last 4 or 5 years, listening to Expedia's earnings calls, Egencia was really one of the bright stars in the portfolio, and there was talk of Egencia really getting to scale globally. Then the pandemic happens, and that's totally out of your control. Does business travel almost go to zero? And how do you bounce back from that? What is your plan?
Yep. So as you said, it's almost a year ago today that we all started experiencing that very rapid and steep decline. And business travel did go to nearly zero. And it started improving in the fall. It was getting better. And then especially in Europe, as the new lockdowns came in, we've sort of seen the starts and stops, and we can talk later about the trends that we're seeing. But in terms of, how we think about it is we're going to come out of this stronger. So we are looking at how do we make the business stronger. The first thing is, how do we have an even better value proposition for our customers? So Egencia has always believed in a digital first travel management solution. And in fact, early on with the pandemic, we had a hypothesis, which was that's actually going to play into what clients are looking for. Because across all industries, companies are looking to digitize and to control more in one click. But in particular, for companies, as they think about returning to travel and understanding where their travelers are going, digital is key. So we said we are going to lean into the area that we're already strong in, which is digital. We're going to build more capabilities in our platform. So we launched a travel advisory service where travelers can get information about destinations throughout the sort of booking and shopping and in-trip experience. Even if travel is still low, we know that will be valuable. We launched some self-service tools, chat. We launched a Connect community for travel managers. So there are many other things we launched, but sort of the first thing was, how do we lean into continuing to innovate for our clients?
Right.
And I would say, like others, though, we also looked at how do we make our business more effective. So, there are always things that you want to do, but never have time to get to. And there were things that we could do, like giving tools to our account managers or our sales teams to understand, where can we target better? Where is the sweet spot? And, we use the time of lower demand to really get better at that as well.
So it's interesting. So digital first, and yet you mentioned the travel advisory stuff, but in some respects, it would seem that travelers, road warriors might want more hands-on personal treatment. Like, for example, there's so much confusion about the rules and policies. They're changing now that vaccines are in place. So how do you balance the two?
Yep. No, it's a really good point, because we are seeing there are some travelers or some companies that are calling more. So for each transaction, you might get more calls because it's, okay, I'm going to make this booking, but what do I need to know about the rules for where I'm going? And even if we make some of that available online in the tool or in the Connect community with travel managers, some people want to call someone. So we give people the choice. We've actually done some interesting work on understanding what is driving that contact propensity. And that's another example of things. I think when you start to have time to do it, you start to understand better. But one of the things we found is that people who tend to call more or have higher contact propensity, it's because the first transaction they did was on the phone. Whereas people who the first transaction that they do is actually digital, they're more likely to do it themselves. So I would say we recognize that as travel comes back, there probably will be for many people more of a tendency to want to talk to someone, whether it's via chat or call, and we'll be there for that as well.
So do you have a strategy to try to have them make that first transaction digital? I mean, it's lower cost for you.
Yeah, it's well, there's a cost aspect. There's also just an experience aspect. Is I think when people are able to self-serve and go quickly and do it immediately when they want, in many cases, that's a better experience for them. So we are looking at how do we make sure that happens. So as companies onboard onto our platform, what's the education that we can give them so that they understand that they can, that's easy enough to do it themselves. So it's the kind of thing we're looking at right now.
So I'm trying to understand where Egentia's place in the universe is right now coming out of the pandemic, because you said you have confidence that Egentia will emerge stronger than it was. And we just heard from Amex GBT, and they were talking, I forget the figure that Paul Abbott cited about all the new business they signed in 2020, which seems unbelievable. So what gives you confidence? Where do you see yourself now in the ecosystem, and what gives you confidence that you're going to emerge stronger?
Yeah. So I talked earlier about the value proposition that we have and how I think the digital first really fits into a sweet spot. But we've had a great year in terms of new customer wins, and it comes in two ways. One is just customers who are moving from unmanaged to managed travel, because that's definitely a lot of companies that are doing that, and companies who are saying, actually, my incumbent, my program was across sort of, I couldn't always get the data in one place. I didn't have great global coverage. It wasn't self-service. So we've had a number of nice wins on new clients. But what gets me equally excited is there are many companies out there that have their travel programs split across multiple providers. And I would say I'm still relatively new to the business travel sector because I joined Egencia just over a year ago. I'd been at Expedia before, but was relatively new to Egencia. And actually, we had many clients that would have part of their business with us and part with other providers. And we've seen a lot of those actually say, we're going to consolidate our program, and we're consolidating them with Egencia. And we can all call out numbers for how much signing we've had, but I think the proof will be in the pudding of when travel does come back, what is the growth that we're going to see based on those expanded clients and new clients.
So can you name any names about new client wins, or are they mostly smaller companies?
There are a lot of smaller companies, but there are also some big companies. So one great example is Randstad, which is a Dutch human resource services company, and they'd had part of their business with us, and now we've expanded. So we've replaced another provider that was in there. But really, I think that's also one of the things that's special about the Egencia platform is we can go from clients who have $100,000 in travel budget up to clients who have hundreds of millions of dollars in travel budget, and it's the same platform.
So the Expedia Group has been on a tear over the last year in trying to simplify its operations. It's shedding brands, Silver Rail, recently Classic Custom Vacations. Right. There's been talk recently, maybe Expedia should spin off Egencia to focus more on its core business. So how do you view that? How do you see Egencia's future in the Expedia portfolio?
Yeah. And I think that you asked Peter the same question on Vrbo. And
I'm hoping for a different answer.
Well, I might disappoint you, which is just, as a company, is that we're always looking at, how do we create more value for our travelers, for our partners, for our shareholders. There's nothing new to announce today. What I would say, I'm very focused and with the team at Egencia on building a great business and, delivering more value for our clients. And I think that that's the formula you have to have. And then and go from there.
So what is your data telling you? What are travel managers telling you about the recovery? What should we expect for 2021 and beyond?
I wish I had a crystal ball. So first, what travel managers are telling us is, travel is definitely higher up on the CEO agenda. So they're getting more access to the executive teams in companies, and companies are really thinking about using travel as a lever to recover from the pandemic. But I would say nobody thinks that it's going to like flip a switch and come back on. What we're seeing is there are certain geographies, not surprisingly, where there's either strong vaccine rollout, fewer cases. Some places in Asia, Australia, where travel is picking up. We also see sort of sector by sector. So throughout this, there have been some sectors like manufacturing that have continued to travel. And I think Paul was saying it earlier about domestic travel, especially hotel bookings coming back. Well, I see it a lot through the lens of the size of the client. So we see some of our smaller clients are returning to travel faster than the bigger clients. And some of that is related to domestic versus international, because I think we all know that international travel is much more challenged right now. But some of it may be just smaller companies being more agile. I do personally believe that we all say there's this big pent up demand for leisure, and we're seeing it. I think yesterday there were more people that the TSA said there were more people that went through airports in a single day than a year ago. So I think we're going to start to see that leisure pop, and as people get used to that, I think it will then also feel more normal to travel for business.
We just had an audience poll. I don't know if you saw it, and 69% of participants thought, there it is, that Asia and Middle East would recover first.
Yep, I think that's right. And the U.S., because the U.S. obviously is a big domestic market. I think Europe is going to be tougher. Unfortunately, no, I shouldn't say unfortunately, but I live in London, and it's. I think for many of us in Europe, we've been so used to being able to travel super seamlessly around countries,
right?
And it definitely we're in a different moment, but hopefully it's going to come back soon.
Sure. An audience question: is Expedia looking to shift their capabilities to service needs of hybrid and remote workers, local meetings, team offsites, business trips that are longer with more multi-segments?
So I would say we, through the Agencia platform, want to be able to support companies as they are figuring out, how are people going to travel. So it may be you're an employee and you're working remotely, and then you're coming into the office. So how do we, that in some ways is the same trip as if you're an employee and you're going to visit a client. So I think that these are more. It's the same capabilities on travel, just potentially different use case. And then on multi-segments, we've always been able to do that. We've always been able to say, okay, you know what, I'm going from London to Paris, and then I'm going to stop over in New York, and maybe I'll stay over the weekend, because I do think there will be a trend that trips will be longer. But we can support those with the same tools that we were already supporting trips.
So Southwest CEO Gary Kelly recently said that he thinks business travel recovery, well, he said it was down 90% for Southwest business travel, and that the recovery will take longer than the 5 years that it took coming out of the financial crisis. And Glenn Fogel of Booking Holdings said he thinks that business travel will permanently be a diminished share of the overall travel business in the future. And yet we have distributed workforces. Paul Abbott of Amex GBT said he thinks that it will be a tailwind for travel. So how do you view those things?
Oh, I mean, I agree completely actually with Paul. And I remember early on in the pandemic, I remember talking to a couple of our clients who said, travel is going to be part of the concept of the new world of work. And if we go to more remote workforces, maybe travel will be, hey, I'm in my company, everybody's going to get together every quarter for a big meeting. And so previously, everybody would live near the headquarters and we would meet there. And now people are distributed, so they need to travel in. So I think this idea of how people work, where they work from. I was talking to a friend the other day she lives in Virginia, and she's got a company of about 100 people. And she said, when I used to do recruiting, I would only recruit people who lived sort of near me. And now I'm recruiting people sort of all over the sort of Southeast corridor and elsewhere in the US. And I am going to pay for them to come visit, to come into the office once a month. So I think that there will be new scenarios that will drive business travel. I don't know how many years it will take, but I'm definitely someone who believes that it will come back.
And so you're not buying the argument that it will, in the long term, be a diminished type of travel?
No, I think it will be different. I think maybe people will do fewer of those one-night trips just to meet someone. But I think ultimately people do business with people, and the human connection that you can get, whether it's to close a deal or whether it's internal meetings for creativity, I think we crave that contact.
So you're also responsible, you're president of Expedia Business Services. So we have an audience question. Is there a differentiated value proposition you've been reimagining to more closely integrate Expedia partner solutions and Egencia?
Okay. So yes, I do. So I run Expedia Partner Solutions, which is the business within Expedia, where we take all the capabilities that are within Expedia and we bring those to bear to power other people in the travel industry. So we power other online travel agencies, we power offline travel agencies, we actually power other corporate travel agencies. It's really, I think we try to be humble at Expedia and say, we're not even 10% of the global travel market with our own brands. So, EPS can go work with and help, 90% of the rest of the market succeed. So with Egencia and EPS, we are both B2B businesses. And so there are capabilities that we have internally, whether it's, how do you get great at selling to clients? How do you get great at managing them? What are B2B client expectations versus B2C? Those are very internal things that we do in order to make each business stronger. I think when we look at what are the things that EPS can bring to our partners, Egencia is just naturally taking those things from the Expedia Group platform. So I wouldn't say there's any kind of external value proposition where we would see those two coming together. They both have their position in the market, but the fact that we have teams that are both operating in B2B, I think makes both businesses stronger.
We have 1 minute left. This is an easy question. So Expedia was talking a couple of years ago about, M&A for Egencia, to build Egencia in markets that you already existed. Are there opportunities now, or is that really too much to deal with as Expedia tries to simplify the company?
Well, I think Peter also, I watched your interview with Peter. You asked him about that.
No, but Egencia specifically.
Yeah, Egencia specifically. I would say right now we're very focused on how do we build the best platform that we can then use to expand geographically. So as I said, we are digital first. We're constantly adding capabilities to our platform. And when you open new points of sale, I believe in doing that with our platform rather than saying, okay, we need to figure out how would we put something else with it. But never say never, right?
In other words, focus, focus, focus. And our time is up, so we can't focus on Egencia anymore. But next time.
I will continue to.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Dennis.
Thank you. It was great.